what the reader already knows here implies the previous knowledge of the reader. Before answering the questions, you should know the meaning of natural calamities and you should know the different types of natural calamities. The ability to understand the information presented in the written form is known as reading comprehension. Welcome dear students. I am Mrs. Reena, lecturer, Department of English at Vidhyaashram First Grade College, MYSURU. Today, in this session, let us discuss the language component reading comprehension of 4th Sem BCom. So here, we will be going through the meaning of reading comprehension and fundamental skills required in efficient reading comprehension and also the reading strategies to improve reading comprehension. Okay, we all think that reading comprehension, that is, they will give a passage and after that we have to write the answers. So we have to read the given passage, then it will be followed by few questions where we have to answer them. And you think that it's very easy to do that, just read the passage and then to write the answers for the questions asked below, right? So it's, of course, it is easy and you can score good marks in that. But before reading a passage or textbook, we have to keep certain things in our mind, right? So simply if we read for the exam's sake, it's not of any use. So whenever we read something, we should gain some knowledge from that. Let's see the meaning of reading comprehension and also the skills which we require to read a textbook. And let's also look at the different skills which is required to read a text properly, and also let's know about the reading strategies. So, what do you mean by reading comprehension? Reading comprehension is the ability to process text, understand its meaning, and integrate with what the reader already knows. Okay, so integrate with what the reader already knows here implies the previous knowledge of the reader or the prior knowledge of the reader. So reading comprehension is the ability to process text and also to understand meaning. Not only, it's not simply reading, we should understand its meaning. Okay, so let's look into a definition of reading comprehension. The ability to understand information presented in the written form is called reading comprehension. I repeat, the ability to understand the information presented in the written form is known as reading comprehension. So comprehension is a creative, multifaceted process. Okay, comprehension is a creative and multifaceted process. That means multifaceted means having many sides or having different aspects. So dependent upon 4 language skills, that is, so it depends upon the 4 language skills, that is phonology, syntax, semantics and pragmatics. What do you mean by phonology? Phonology is the aspect of linguistic which deals with the system of sounds. Okay, and what is syntax? Syntax is the arrangement of words and phrases to get a to create a sentence. Okay, so semantics deals with the meaning of the words or phrases or sentences. So pragmatics is a branch, it deals with the things with sensibility and realistically. Pragmatics means it is dealing with the things sensibly and realistically. So now you understand, phonology means it is the branch of linguistics which deals with the system of sounds. Then syntax means it is the arrangement or the proper arrangement of words and phrase to create a well sentence. And semantics is the branch of linguistics which deals with the meaning of a passage, text, whatever may be. And the pragmatics, it is the dealing with things sensibly and realistically. So here the comprehensive, it is a creative, multifaceted process which deals with the different branches of languages like phonology, syntax, semantics and pragmatics. Next, the fundamental skills required in efficient reading comprehension are knowing meaning of words. So without knowing the meaning of the words, we will not be able to understand whatever is written in the passage or in the textbook. We will not be able to analyze the passage or the textbook in whole. Next one is ability to understand the meaning of word from discourse context. If we don't know the meaning of the words, we should be able to understand the meaning of words, then phrases, sentences, etc. to understand or to analyze the textbook completely. Next, ability to follow organization of passage. That means we have to read the passage in an order. Okay, we have to follow the organization. We have to follow the organization of passage. For example, after reading the first paragraph, we cannot directly skip into or we cannot skip to the third paragraph. We have to, after reading the first paragraph, we have to go through the second paragraph. Then only we will be able to understand or we will come to know the meaning of that passage well. So otherwise, if you skip one paragraph or skip one sentence, you will not be able to get the proper meaning or we will lose the continuity there. Next, identify the antecedents and references in it. When we read a textbook, we should know the previous knowledge about the author or why the author has written. Antecedents means it is regarding the previous knowledge which we have regarding that passage or the text which we are reading. And also we should refer it to some other things. For example, if we are reading some history book, so we have to analyze the previous thing. We have to refer the other thing also. For example, when we read Indian history, so we will go through different movements. In other parts of the country also, they had revolution. So that revolution, so India was under the control of British, then French, then Dutch and Portuguese, all wanted to have power on India, right? So they want to rule India. They all wanted to rule India. So when there was an outbreak like French Revolution in France, then American Revolution, so it had an impact on India also. So we have to refer that why there was an impact of French Revolution in India, why there was impact of American Revolution in India, and impact of world wars. So like that we should be able to refer the things. Next, ability to draw inferences from a passage about its contents. Okay, ability to draw an inference. That means ability to reason that or ability to come to a conclusion why this happened or why the author has written this. So what is the purpose of the author to write this text or the passage? So we should be able to give or make inference. Next is ability to identify the main thought of a passage. This means that we should be able to identify the main theme of the passage. Okay. Next, ability to answer questions answered in a passage. So, the thing is, if you want to score good marks in this reading comprehension, you have to answer all the questions asked below the passage. Read the passage carefully. So only if you are able to answer the questions asked, you will be able to score good marks, and you should be able to understand both question and also the answer. You have to check whether you have written the proper answer for the questions. Next, ability to recognize the literary devices and propositional structures used in a passage and determine its tone. So, this is also an important aspect which you have to know, not simply reading the poem or prose or any other stories. So you should be able to recognize the literary devices in that. For example, the figures of speech, and also you should know the structure of that, tone of that, and the rhyming scheme in the poem. All that things you should be able to understand. Next, to understand the situational mood. Okay, to understand the situational mood. So you should understand each and every aspect in the textbook or the passage. So mood of agents, that means the people in the story. Then you should know about the objects used in that passage. Then temporal means regarding the timings. Okay, maybe year, date, month, whatever maybe. That one maybe in past tense, present tense, all these things. It is regarding the time. You should be able to understand all these modes. Then spatial references, that means about the region in which place this took place. All that things, whether inside a state or country or in the world, other parts in other countries or other parts of the world. Next, casual and intentional inflections, etc. So these are the things which we have to understand when we read a passage. So these moods, these situational moods should be conveyed for assertion, questioning, commanding, refraining, etc. So here, if we read it carefully, if we understand all these things properly, you will be able to give the answers, ask the questions and all. Next is ability to determine writer's purpose, intent and point of view, and draw inferences about the writer. Okay, so we should be able to understand, we should have the ability to understand the author's purpose of writing the text. Next, coming to the reading strategies. So here, using prior knowledge or previewing. This provides a framework of the text. Okay, so here using prior knowledge or previewing the text means, so we have to have some, before reading something, we should have some previous knowledge about that subject. For example, in your exam, you will get a passage regarding the natural calamities. Before that, before answering the questions, you should know the meaning of natural calamities and you should know the different types of natural calamities. Then only you will be able to answer that, or you will be able to understand that passage carefully. Without having a simple knowledge about that subject, we won't be able to move further with that. Next is predicting. So it sets up expectations. For example, when we watch a movie, in the beginning itself, we start predicting about the climax, right? So most of us, it may be true or false, but still we have that capacity to predict. So that prediction is based on our knowledge, prior knowledge. Next is identifying the main idea and summarization. If we read simply for the sake of exam or anything, it is not worthy to read like that. So when we read, we have to go through the main theme and we should be able to summarize that. Okay, for example, when we recite a poem, okay, we should be able to understand the theme of the poem, then the purpose of the poem, purpose of the poet, why he wrote that poem, and also we should be able to understand each paragraph line by line, and we should be able to summarize that or write it in our own words. Next is questioning. So asking and answering questions about the topic or about the text is another reading strategy that helps us to know the meaning of the text. Okay, so whenever you read a text, so many questions will come into our mind. So we may ask questions to others to clear our confusions, and also we may answer the question so that it will help us to understand the meaning of the passage or the text very well. Next, making inferences. So, making inferences is that after reading, we have to come to an conclusion and we have to think about that. We have to reason. We should have that reasoning power to come to an conclusion. Okay, so making inferences. So, in order to make inferences about something that is not explicitly stated in the text, we must learn to draw on prior knowledge and recognize clues in the textbook to draw an inferences. So we should use the clues given in the text. Next is visualizing. So having that picture. When we read something, we should have that picture, or we can have our own picture regarding that topic in our mind, so that it will help us to recall it and it will help us to stay in our memory for a long time. So here studies have shown that those who visualize while reading have better recall. Okay, so to recall better, we have to visualize the things. Then, so readers can take advantage of illustrations then that are embedded in the text or create their own mental images. So we can create. So they have in our textbooks, when we read something, we will get the illustration. We can take that illustration also. For example, building of Taj Mahal. So there were, who built the Taj Mahal? It was Shah Jahan, and he had so many workers. So you can, and it was built in Agra, right? All that things we can visualize that. We can have a picture that we visualize the picture of Shah Jahan, then his wife Mumtaz, then so many people working, carrying the loads, all that things, masons, how they work, everything we can visualize it, and it will remain in our memory for long period. And so we can have, so in the textbook itself you will get lot of examples or illustration. You can use the same illustration, or else you can use your own image or drawing when reading text without illustrations. Okay, it will help you to remember the things for a long time. So when you picturize, okay, each and everything in the previous years, you might have had the poem The Sower. Okay, it's about the farmer. So you know, when you go through a village or you know the life of a farmer, you have to picturize that. So if you picturize that, you will be able to write the whole summary of that poem. So here visualizing plays an important role in reading comprehension. So here is an exercise for you. You have to read this carefully. Floods are second only to fire as the most common of all natural disasters. So here, as soon as in the beginning itself, here we are speaking about a natural calamity, right? So natural calamity, when we speak about, when we come across this word, you have to picturize the natural calamities like earthquake, cyclone, all the things are the natural calamity. You have to visualize that, and you have to draw you have to have a mental image of these things. So they occur almost everywhere in the world, resulting in widespread damage and even death. So natural calamities of flood, like floods, earthquake, so they have a severe impact on the life of the people, right? So it causes damage to the life of the people as well as the places. So consequently, scientists have long tried to perfect their ability to predict floods. So far, the best that scientists can do is to recognize the potential for flooding in certain conditions. There are a number of conditions from deep snow on the ground to human error that cause flooding. Okay, it's because of our selfishness only sometimes we have to undergo these natural calamities. So when deep snow melts, it creates a large amount of water. Although deep snow alone rarely causes flood, when it occurs together with heavy rain and sudden warmer weather, it can lead to serious flooding. There is a fast snow melt on top of frozen or very wet ground. Flooding is more likely to occur than when the ground is not frozen. Frozen ground or ground that is very wet and already saturated with water cannot absorb the additional water created by the melting snow. Melting snow also contributes to high water levels in rivers and streams. Whenever rivers are already at their full capacity of water, heavy rains will result in the rivers overflowing and flooding the surrounding land. Rivers that are covered in ice can also lead to flooding. When ice begins to melt, the surface of the ice cracks and breaks into large pieces. These pieces of ice move and float down the river. They can form a dam in the river, causing the water behind the dam to rise and flood the land upstream. If the dam breaks suddenly, then the large amount of water held behind the dam can flood the areas downstream too. Broken ice dams are not the only dam problems that can cause flooding. When a large human-made dam breaks or fails to hold the water collected behind it, the results can be devastating. Dams contain such huge amounts of water behind them that when sudden breaks occur, the destructive force of the water is like a great tidal wave. Unleashed dam waters can travel tens of kilometers, cover the ground in meters of mud and debris, and drown and crush everything and creature in their path. Although scientists cannot always predict exactly when floods will occur, they do know a great deal about when floods are likely or probably going to occur. Deep snow, ice-covered rivers, and weak dams are all strong conditions for potential flooding. Hopefully, this knowledge of why floods happen can help us reduce the damage they cause. So, when we read the passage, we came to know about the natural calamities, and here we concentrated more on floods and how the floods occur, what are the reasons for the flood, everything we analyzed that. So we were able to come to a conclusion of damage caused by the flood and why the flood. So flood alone will not create the damage. Along with flood, other things also will severe flood. Okay. So after that, after reading the passage, you will be having the questions like this. To answer that, you should have the previous knowledge of that natural calamities, and also you should read the text carefully. Let's see, which of the following words are natural disaster? So what's the answer? Is it only flood? We read about flood here. Is it only flood is a natural calamity? No, we have flood, earthquake, aeroplane is not a natural calamity, and typhoon. These are the three natural calamities. Next one, which of the following are included as causes for floods in the reading passage? So, which of the following? It is melting snow. In the passage, they spoke about the melting snow. Next, how does deep snow cause flooding? Options are melting snow causes flooding, Too much rain causes flooding. Sudden warm temperature combined with heavy rains causes flooding. And freezing water causes flooding. Freezing water will not cause flood. The answer is sudden warm temperature combined with heavy rains causes flooding. Next, a broken human-made dam is compared to what? It's compared to a tsunami, a tidal wave, a broken ice dam, or overflowing. So here in this passage, a broken human-made dam is compared to a tidal wave. So hope you all understood the meaning of reading comprehension and about the skills which we have to use or which we have to inculcate to have and inculcate in efficient reading comprehension, and also about the reading strategies. So whenever you attempt a question or reading comprehension, go through it properly, analyze it properly, try to understand the meaning of the passage, and then you have to answer the questions. So thank you all. Stay safe and healthy.